Sorry for the cut, but I am back. Anyway, after she explains how these actions had made her happy, I was going on about how, in real life, as it will persist that these groupies would, follow these actual killers, that being a thing that happened, so perhaps alluding to that idea or concept. We then learn about what Joker's punishment will be, that being the death penalty. So things are quite, crucial back then. Killing someone in, a live studio audience probably definitely heightening that idea or potential. Now, this movie, at this point in juncture, after this, we begin to hear him sing. And this is the movie's first time alluding to it being a musical. So, now I could be wrong here, because I'm not aware of another musical thriller, but mayhaps this is the first of its genre mixing that I've seen. I've never seen another musical thriller before. Maybe there are more musicals that are in, like, not in movies, but in, like, more so the actual acting troupe that are thrillers, but I wouldn't know of them. Anyway, we know that this is sort of in his head, as once he's done with the song, he resets his position to where he was prior, and things are back to normal, or to suggest as such. But that is not the case every time, alluding to something the first movie had done really, and I would argue probably a little bit more effectively, is bridging that gap between what is actually happening and what is not happening. This is a bit more obvious that at least this section wasn't happening. The musical session wasn't really happening. Anyway, so one of the cops mocks him for getting the death sentence while asking for his autograph, which, a baffling thing. And he was in the middle of writing something, I don't know what it was, but after that he just writes, "I hope you get cancer." So, Meanwhile, during their little get-together, she sets a fire out, on the side in the back there while they were watching a movie or after the fact. And onwards and afterwards, they proceed to kiss. As the others are running about as the fire is spreading, and they're saying, and so on and so forth. But during their little duet, they're caught off by the cops. And he laughs hysterically while being taken away. Then we get these more clear interludes as him dancing as the Joker, and her being interluded into this sort of song as well. Now, she sneaks in later, getting one of the guards apparently let her in, I guess. Which she proceeds to give him the classic makeup and paint. The two have a little bit of a intimate session, proceeding in the sex. So, with that, she and him are obviously now an item with this established. And in the process, obviously, it's all about building up to this ultimate court case where they'll define whether or not, he is guilty, or using that personality disorder. So the court begins, and we have our first trial section, in which they have their first witness, or testimony, about Joker, and how, I believe it was someone who, like a doctor, to say whether or not he is of a split personality, and thus, the doctor claims that he is not, and there's back and forth about the client, or the defendant, versus Harvey Dent, who is the one on the accusatory here. During when our court case begins. So, there's like a song in between the court, or beginning of the court, I believe. And it is during a recess of shorts where Arthur learns that Harley volunteered in bringing herself in. And this is where her full name is revealed as, well, Harley Quinn, that she is actually with her parents, all of this information that she did not divulge to him prior. After the court, recess. And this is represented during their duet after the fact, in which she pulls out a gun and shoots him. And when permitted to have visitation time, she just outright admits that she did all of those things just to meet him, as it were, that being bringing herself to that prison. And she also alludes to the fact that she is pregnant, and then proceeds to sing after the fact, in which he joins. After the fact, we cut back to the court. And I believe the second person was the woman that we briefly saw in the first Joker movie. I believe this is her. Who talks about, what he was like during that time in the little hotel area, or the apartment rather. But before the woman goes deep into it, we see that he has a moment singing about, and obviously this one's fake because he proceeds to kill Dent as well as the judge. But there is a moment deep into this woman's defense where he persists on firing his, attorney. I was thinking of the word there. Apologize, but nonetheless, there's an interesting bit here, and I think it alludes to the bigger thing here, and that was during his little song where he did kill Dent in this little fantasy of his, but the song was more alluding to how there always is a Joker. And this alludes perhaps to the ending of the movie, because it did not go where I was expecting it to be quite frank. I was actually quite surprised. And of course that is after we learn that Arthur wants to defend himself, as I was suggesting. So this is all in his head. This idea that he has always been the Joker. That the joke has always simultaneously been on him. His life has been this long overdue joke. It's sort of what this movie is alluding to throughout. And when he returns to the prison, and the fellow prisoners are like, "Yeah, you're defending yourself, woo!" So they begin to cheer him on. So he's becoming quite the celebrity in prison as well. So now he's the one asking questions, and he's Dent goes first, asking Mr. Puddles as the third witness in this, the witness in one of the amount of killings. I know you have another song spliced in here after the fact, and then before his little moment, the Joker is brought back to the prison because their day is over. So the cops drag him along and they beat him down. Like, "Oh, you're trying to pull this crazy stunt. How dare you?" So it cuts to her singing "Being in Love," and finally puts on the full makeup to match his crazy, as it were. So, in his closing statement, after and during his defense, he kind of almost buries himself, essentially, in the questions he asked outright. And I believe it was either here or when before Arthur comes clean, where there's like a teleprompter, or like a camera rather, on him, and he's asked, like, "Oh, you think this is a joke or something?" or like, "What do you think is going on?" And I could have sworn this would be the moment around this section where they would have the line, "The world is a stage," alluding to the context under the trailer poster there. You can see that up there. That line actually doesn't come up. The world is a stage. I was actually thinking that it would, not even knowing that I actually didn't know that was under the poster initially until I searched this image. So I had assumed that was where the movie was obviously going to go, but he never says it. So again, a bit baffling of a decision. And, having the rabble of the audience being like, "Oh." But it is during his closing statement where Arthur comes clean. He just outright admits he killed all of those people, including his mom. And then he proceeds to tell one final knock-knock joke. And he says, and he's responding to himself, and the ending joke is... the answer is Arthur Fleck who, and that's it. That's to allude to the idea, to reimburse this idea that he is the joke. His life has been this tragic joke, and of course, no one is laughing, despite stopping. So, after coming clean, the people are like, "Oh, we gotta deliberate." So he finds time to call Harley. She's away. She left after he dropped this behavior that she was expecting of him. In which he is once again, you know. Anyway, we cut back to the ending conclusion where they are about to say how he's guilty. And he begins to laugh a little bit more and more before he is attacked by, I believe it was one of the young men's fathers, I think, that goes to attack him. And shortly after that attack, the wall to the right, I believe, blows up. He then stumbles his way outside, and these two people in clown, Joker attire, one of them is very mimicky of the very look itself, and begin to try to move him. This is, of course, alluding to the idea that this Joker identity has spread, as it were. That he is already won despite having lost. Kind of giving that implication without ever having to say it. Arthur runs off when there's traffic, and then he proceeds to run from the two that have picked him up. And makes his way back to the stairs where he meets back up with Harley. And she goes on about how he gave up on the fantasy of it all. And proceeds to sing about that's her final song number about entertainment. He is torn and gives up once more, seeing this reaction as the police catch up and grab him. They're about to move him back in, but this one guy stops him initially to tell him a new joke. During this joke, and this is where the movie just completely flips on where I thought it was going, proceeds to stab Arthur several times, by the way, to death. In fact, the final shot we see is just him slumped over dead. And that is Joker, the Joker 2. I'll just call it that for short. So yeah, I was surprised. This movie did take me by surprise by its ending. I think that there is a very strong theme of the Joker becoming a martyr without ever having to say it. He's built this audience, he's built these people that are willing to dress as the clowns, as you see even in the first movie nearing the end of it, and now we're seeing that very much is living and breathing outside of the events that Arthur is partaking in. But it also, the sort of side, or the theme that runs alongside that is the case that Arthur makes to himself that he is one with the Joker, or that he is just the joke, and that really culminating in that knock-knock joke. I think that's a fantastic way of setting that way up, by the way. It never feels like the movie's writing is like so on the nose. It feels like it's very cleverly allowing the audience these, sort of very clear, like, we want you to get to the theme, obviously, but we're not gonna directly tell you the obvious stuff. We're gonna sort of either show you, which is the advantage of a movie, and we're also going to allude to it by having these lines be subtext rather than text. Again, the joke. and it being, the joke being Arthur Fleck, who, and really allowing that to be one of his final moments before, and again, before sort of threading into the other theme of him becoming this martyr for this movement, the movement of these clowns, or people who feel like they are clowns, like they are the jokes, like they are the castaways, the people that are thrown asunder. And I will say, with a lot of nonsense that is going on right now, I gotta say, this movie came out very timely, I suppose, where the world, or at least America in this sense, is very much in chaos, and it does feel like there's a lot of clowns going about these days. But not in the same context, obviously. And I mean that in a different context, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so I think this movie is a lot stronger than I think a lot of people were fearing that it wasn't going to be, as a musical number as well. The performances were quite strong. Obviously, you have an actual singer there, and Lady Gaga playing Harley, so you obviously have quite the easing into the performance, as it were, because that is the majority of her performance is through, most of the times we are seeing her is through the musical lens. And again, even when that initial one is a lie, it is clear that in some instances it's a lot harder to tell, or even in some cases it might actually be happening. Like, there's this one time where I think it's Joker who's singing, and he's singing, and then we see the TV, and then we see people responding to him, but he's also there. I think that was the illusion that they were alluding to, as if it had been recorded, but then he'd seen it later. I don't know. So again, it could be either way, right? That's the illusion of it, or the potential for it either being real as well. So yeah, it is, I think, I was expecting, the moment where they were on the stairs, I thought what was going to happen, and I thought the way the movie was going to end, is that since he had not said the world is a stage, or something along those lines, that he would say it to her here, at the end, and then they would go off running together, or something along those lines. I thought that's where the movie was going, initially, before, but this is the end of Arthur Fleck's story. And yeah, I think that this makes it a complete narrative. I mean, like, there was a lot to tell, I think, from the last movie. I think that there was enough open room, and I think that this follow-up was quite effective in achieving what it set out to do. And it's, again, two big themes of Arthur being the joke and him being a martyr at the same time, or becoming a martyr in this case. So, in terms of the score, I do think that the first movie is a little bit better. Like, I don't know if I would still say this is a 10 out of 10 per se. I'd probably say it's close, like a 9 out of 10, if anything. Or if it is among the 10 out of 10s, that it would just be, like, slightly, like, by an inch behind Joker, but I would have to think about that more, whether or not I think this is stronger than the first movie. I mean, there's definitely a lot to appreciate here, is what I'm trying to get at, so... point being is that it's still a fantastic movie regardless. So that's my review of The Joker 2, and if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head over to my petition to help out small YouTubers, second to my PayPal, we can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server. We can join, collab, shield, do all that cool stuff for free, and until next time everyone, bye bye!